What's up, everybody? Welcome back for another episode of Dream Chasers Ground Zero. Today I have with us Mauricio Botero. Mauricio, why don't you just give us a little bit of background on yourself, kind of where you're from, what you do, and some of the things. Well, I'm sorry, not some of the things. What Ground Zero was like for you, and then some of the things that you've learned along the way that helped you get to where you are today.
Yeah, sure. Thanks for having me. So first things first, I'm born and raised in Miami, Florida. I didn't come from, family wealth or anything like that. Single mom, two kids. Struggle was real, right? I learned the value of money very quickly, the value of a dollar. I had to work for everything I got when I was a teenager. So I took that and as I looked at my options in high school and I realized, wow, my grades suck. I don't really have many options here, and I don't think going into debt and going into college is a good idea, especially when I hate school. The military actually came up as an idea, kind of on a whim. Seemed like a great idea, and then the Marine Corps recruiter came by my high school and said, "You want to join the Marine Corps? It's going to be hard. It's going to be a challenge." I said, "Can I go to Japan and work on computers?" He said, "Absolutely." I said, "Sign me up." So at 18, after high school ended, I joined the Marine Corps with these great ambitions of just maximizing those 4 years. A 4 year commitment didn't seem like too much time for an 18-year-old. And I did. I maximized my time in computers as much as possible. Didn't end up going to Japan, unfortunately, but instead went to Virginia, where the network operations of all computers for the Marine Corps is there, and that's where I went. So at 18 years old, I was cognizant enough to know that I'm in a really, really great situation, opportunity, a physical place to, if I want to do this computer career right, this is where I can do it. And yeah, it was a big culture shock getting there. Kid out of Miami that came from like literally nothing. I didn't have much at all. And being around really successful, again, this is like where the hub of computers was for the Marine Corps. So I was around like 25-year-olds, 30-year-olds making six figures already. And I couldn't even fathom like what that looked like. And they were already even starting to talk about, this is in 2002, 2003, about things like buying your first rental property. I'm like, what? I can't buy something. I'm 19. But so yeah, that's how it started. And it started with a clear goal. I could not be broke. I could not be poor again. So I will hustle, I will learn, and I will become an expert in my field. And I had some really good mentors there, kind of giving me that advice again from the military side, but also taking me to the side on the life after the military. You still should be and need to be an expert in your field. Everything and anything starts first by being really, really good at your job. And so that's what I did, right? I just really hit the books, just really hustled. I did not any opportunity I could to take on classes or training or certifications in the computer world. Certifications are a big deal. So I just studied my ass off and just worked really, really hard on that. So that's how that started. Just getting out of Miami, getting out of a bad place, and just getting into a place of becoming good at something finally.
No, that's awesome, man. It's a really great story. Like I said on the call before we got started recording here. I think you're our first military guest. So first of all, thank you for your service. And second,
Thanks.
I know you talked about how you wanted to go to Japan. Was that like a pretty big goal for yourself coming out of high school? Was that like something that you really kind of held yourself to, like, I want to go to Japan? Like that's something I really want to do.
Yeah, as a like 17, 18-year-old, I'd been taking Japanese in high school. I had a cousin who lived there, and it just seems so adventurous and so kind of unique, right? It really appealed to me, that kind of lofty goal. Like I think I could do this. I have enough kind of starting points to maybe do something that most Americans or let alone most kids from Miami can't do. And so yeah, it was a pretty really strong goal for me. And when I got here and things didn't work out that way, when I got here in Virginia and things didn't work out that way, it I realized then quickly it wasn't necessarily Japan specifically. It was more doing something just big and adventurous and something that would be, something I could think back when I was in my 30s. I was already thinking about that stuff. I want to do some of these fun things and adventurous things now in my late teens, early 20s. So that was the idea. That was the goal. It wasn't necessarily Japan specific after the fact when it didn't happen. I realized it wasn't necessarily that Japan thing, but it was kind of doing something big.
Yeah, that's pretty much what I was going to ask you. I was going to ask about how you kind of handled that pivot, but you already answered it. So perfect.
Yeah.
So I also know that you mentioned you had some pretty good mentors along the way. What's kind of some of the advice that they gave you that kind of helped you stay plugged in and stay fresh on, the things that you were doing?
Yeah. Shout out to all my sergeants and staff sergeants who were my bosses, getting a 18-year-old kid and beating his butt when he got stepped out of line or didn't show up on time. Man, so accountability, number one. They taught me really early on just accountability. Like, you own this, you run with this, it's yours. You are a grown man now, and you're in the military and you need to take leadership and ownership of your own things that you take on. So, like the expectation that when I give you something, you run with it and you don't ask. If you need help, you ask for help. But other than that, like, this is all on you. So that was huge, kind of growing into your own, that you don't have to be, it was a difference between being a leader and a follower too, right? So I learned real quickly to be a leader, or to be good in leadership, on my own, right? I should know that it's okay to go to my higher ups if I need some guidance. But once they kind of give me a little head start or point me in the right direction, that the expectation that I should be able to take it from there. And don't come to me, as a leader, don't come to me unless you've done your own homework. Don't come to me unless you've done the research. You've tried to exhaust every book or website or blog, or, they were this generation that I was joining in 2002. I can't believe I'm saying this, but they were coming from a generation without Google, right? Like, search engines didn't exist and YouTube videos didn't exist to answer every question you had. So it was a cool transition coming in. I was the young guy in 2002, 2003. And, I couldn't just myself, right? I was even still in that generation where I couldn't just answer everything with the search engine. I did have to ask the older guys, and older ladies. And so that was a big thing, was just leadership, accountability. Also, just when you have to be on time in the military. And this thankfully, this has applied to me in my civilian life, but being on time, being early is being on time. That's a big thing that the Marine Corps guys always talk about. So that has been really important for me. I notice the difference now when I sign up for things, and people are 5 minutes late, 10 minutes late. Being on time is just such a simple thing that you can control, that does take you a long way. What else? Also, I think that being an expert on your field, like being good at one thing instead of being kind of like okay in a lot of things, being really, really good at one thing has proven very valuable. You can really focus your time and effort on one thing instead of getting distracted by, oh, I want to do, like in the real estate world, right? I talk about a lot of this in the real estate world. There's apartments, there's single family, there's assisted living, there's all these different things and niches. But if you can focus on one, it'll really get you established and going, and then you can focus on other things. I use that in my early career as well. I got really, really good in the IT world in virtualization and storage and the Microsoft technologies. They're kind of in one bubble. And I said, you know what? I'm not going to do the network stuff. I'm not going to do the security stuff. I'm going to focus on this one thing and be really good at it. So that helped me a lot in my career.
Yeah. So one of the questions that just kind of comes to mind with that is kind of, how did you choose your one thing? How did you know that thing was the thing for you? That was the thing you needed to zero in on, and that was the thing that, like, you were going to become the best at, and that was going to be your thing.
Well, this may not help this conversation, but I kind of was forced upon it.
Okay.
At 19 years old, they tell you where you're going to work, right? What place you're going to get assigned to. And then once you're there, they kind of do like a free agency. I'm going to grab this 19-year-old private, and I'm going to put him in this team. And I'm going to grab this guy and put him on this team. So I got put on a team that was doing the niche of Microsoft-based technologies. Thankfully, I kind of wanted that anyway, so that worked out, right? But then fast forward, I think another thing that helped me decide what niche, and especially moving forward, as I did have my own free will and choices at that point, was I found really good mentors or people I looked up to that I established relationships with. I wanted to be like, I looked at them, I saw the career they had, the family life that they had, their kind of work-life balance. I wanted that. I wanted to grow a family and have a family, the type of money they were making. And the fact that, they didn't go and have to get a master's degree. They were just really high specialty guys in Microsoft technologies. They went the certification route. So their lifestyle appealed to me. Their personalities appealed to me. We meshed at our workplace. We meshed, and I grew to like them, and they liked me. So that's really how I ended up finding my niche. Was I modeled my life and my career. I can see, 5 years, 10 years in advance. I could do that. I could be them. I want to be them. It seems like a great place to start, as a place of stability and expertise. So that's how I ended up finding my niche and staying with my niche. Was I kind of got forced into it, but then moving forward, I wanted to stay in it and then just be even better than them at it. So I modeled after them. And they kept telling me, Mauricio, if, I'm 30, 35, right? You're 21 and you're already here doing things that, I wish I could have had this opportunity to be here, to be around these people doing this career at this time now, in technology, it's even in more advanced. Like you're in the right place. You need to take advantage. If I was you, I wish I was here and I would take advantage of it. So I listened to him and I said, hey, if this is a good idea, if you guys think this is a good idea, I'll do it.
That's powerful. There's a lot there for sure. I mean, one of the first things is like, I can relate. You don't always get to pick your team. I feel like everybody, has a situation where they kind of just get thrown into a situation at one time or another, and then they kind of got to figure it out. But those are also usually the experiences that you kind of learn the most from. And that's where you have to realize like, okay, I'm not in my element. What do I do? I mean, and that's where you learn those problem solving skills that you're going to use for the rest of your life. You can't always be in that structured situation. You kind of have to be able to operate those, sort of uncharted waters, I guess you could say. And then in terms of modeling, that is a huge thing. That's one of the things that I've tried to do. And one of the things that I've had, multiple different people tell me to do now is that like, find somebody who's doing something you want to do and do what they do. Like if you stick to, the small things that they're doing on a daily basis, you're going to get better at them. And eventually you're going to learn those things that they know, and you're going to start moving like they move. And eventually you might find yourself in that same position that they are. And then, I lost my train of thought here for a second. I'm trying to remember my last point. What was the last part you just talked about there?
That I could see myself, they were telling me, they were coming back on me saying, hey, if you're hustling, you can be better than me. Like I'm older and, way behind the curve. You're young and here at this opportunity, you should take advantage of it. Yeah,
that right there is something that I've personally heard a lot. I mean, I'm 20 years old, so I'm pretty similar to the same position that you were in, obviously not military, but to the point that I'm kind of, I guess you could say, ahead of the curve, where a lot of people my age aren't really involved in the things that I'm doing. So, a lot of people that I talk to say, oh, I wish I was in this stuff when I was 20 and stuff. And that's where I'm just like really trying to take advantage of the fact that I'm 20, like this is kind of a point in time where, yes, like I absolutely want to enjoy my youth, but this is also, a lot of time that a lot of people kind of look back on and say, I wish I could have that back. So I'm trying to absolutely maximize my time that I have at this stage to either get myself ahead or learn what somebody else doesn't know, or have conversations, build connections, do the things that are going to help me become successful now rather than later try to play catch up and lose that time.
I cannot stress enough. Like now that I'm on the other side, I'm 36 now. It's so weird saying that I'm the older guy now in this scenario. I used to always be the younger guy, but it is so, maybe this is an interesting choice of word, but it is very attractive when, and not in a, look sense, but it's so attractive to see like a young up and comer wanting to hustle and yeah, it works, man. It really works. Like if I had a 20 something year old come to me and say, I want to model, my future path in my career off things that the moves that you made, I would of course take them up on wanting to talk to them. And I heard that too, right? Always model, after the older generation, they like giving back. They want to give back. You'd be surprised how much an older man or woman who's successful in business and real estate or whatever wants to give back and see, want to just help the younger crowd. It's absolutely true. I'm kind of in that middle ground too, because I do it with the older crowd, right? Like I've reached out to model after, now that I've shifted into wanting to be an entrepreneur in real estate investing. I've looked after, I did the same. I'm just repeating the playbook. I've looked at the older generation in real estate, specifically military guys. I did look after military guys and women, and ask them for advice and ask them for guidance. And what do you know? They're like, yeah, I'd love to help you. You seem like a great guy and family guy. You've been successful and you've become an expert in your career, and now you're trying to change into real estate. That's pretty cool. And I'd love to talk to you. So I'm still following the playbook too, man.
Absolutely. I mean, and just that alone, I mean, yes, I really don't know how to like kind of put into words what I'm thinking right now. It's just, yes, like that's huge, because I mean, I can personally tell you, in every single person that I've ever reached out to since my journey has started, which really has been less than a year, hasn't been extremely long, I have never been turned down to get on a phone call, set up an interview, just ask someone questions. I have never been told no. I mean, and I feel like there's this huge stigma with young people that they can't reach out to these business people or anything because they have no sort of, I don't know, like there's no weight to their name. They're like, why should they talk to me? Like what do I have to offer them? Which really, it's just yourself. Like just let them know that you're interested. I mean, and maybe one person's not interested, but I guarantee you there's 9 other ones who are interested that were in your shoes at some point that want to help you out and that want to help you navigate your journey, or at least, and if nothing else, just, I mean, even if you're not, even if you're talking to a banker, that's not at all into, and you want to go into computers, what I mean? They might just be able to tell you something that they learned along the way that could at least help you. There are people out there that don't want to help the youth, but personally, I haven't met them yet.
I mean, I moved into sales, right? So what you're saying is true. You got to shoot your shot. What's the worst that's going to happen? They're going to say no. They're not going to reply back. Oh, well, move on. Next one, right? And that's a big thing too, especially as a younger person kind of getting into this, was being comfortable with being told no or rejection. That is a lesson that you have to learn the hard way. There's no way around it. But as long as like you're, like for this audience, right? As long as you're learning in advance that statistically the math shows that you will get a yes if you do enough no's. It kind of is a little bit of a comfort, and this is me coming now from a sales experience, because I didn't move into sales in IT. It's just training, right? You will get your no's and you will get yeses. Enough no's, you'll eventually get a yes. Same thing with reaching out to people, right? There's real people behind these email addresses. There's real people behind these Instagram accounts that you're sending direct messages from. They actually respond back. They, believe it or not, they or someone close to them will respond back potentially. But you don't know unless you try. So.
Absolutely. I mean, it's just, and sometimes it's still kind of hard to wrap my head around the whole thing. It really is, because it's like, it's not as difficult as it's made out to be. I mean, and like, sort of like you said, there's not enough people my age that are out trying to learn these things that, want to grow and, learn these things now. Like, I mean, I can tell you from, some of my conversations that a lot of people, above my generation are looking at us and they're worried. You know what I mean? Like they are like, like I'm trying to think of how to word it. Like there are some of us, you know what I mean? Me being one of them, but there are some of us that do want to learn these things and they're anxious to meet you. You know what I mean? They want to know you're that kid out there looking to learn these things. Yeah, I mean, it's sort of like you said, like, you're not the first person. I mean, sorry if that, I don't want you to be offended by that, but you're not kind of the first person to tell me that it's refreshing to hear from a young person that wants to learn these things and that wants to know how to build wealth and set themselves up for success and, learn the skills that they need to be successful in life, and it's really not anything out of this world. You know what I mean? You don't have to know anything extremely, extremely complicated. It really is these simple foundations that you just have to get good at and build on, like having a conversation, and, not making the entire thing about yourself and just being willing to listen and learn from another person. It's really not anything, that I had to, spend, like years of time doing, you know what I mean? Like I literally just got exposed to the world of real estate, maybe 8 months ago, completely shattered my perception of everything. But, and then I was like, okay, I want to learn more. So, like, and sort of going back on one of the things you said is finding those mentors, and that's like one of the things that you pointed out there that I feel is really important is finding some common ground. Find something that you can relate to them on. Like I can tell you my personal mentor, he went to the same college that I go to. So, and he played basketball here and I played basketball here. So when I heard him speak, I was able to follow up with him and say, hey, I also play basketball here. We share the same alma mater. Like, I'm interested in what you're talking about. Would you be interested in setting up a call? And he was like, absolutely. And then like, we set up one call, leads to another call, leads to another call. I mean, then I became an intern. And now, I work right alongside him almost daily. Like it really only takes, sort of like you said, shoot your shot, because like, had I not taken that shot, I don't know what I'd be doing today.
What do you know a basketball reference? No pun intended. Huh? No,
Yeah,
exactly, man. And I would challenge anybody, especially someone young, to say, I don't have anything in common with them. There is a way to find things in common with people. Like you can mind map this thing. Like I got a whiteboard behind me, right? A lot of times I'll be like, man, how do I have a connection to someone? Again, this may be part of my sales training and my sales experience too, right? But trying to be, gain the skill of like a chameleon where you can blend into any environment, you have to find common connections. And you can be taught this. This isn't like some natural thing. Some of us may have some natural tendencies to be good at it versus others, right? And me, I found myself as a young kid. I came from nothing, right? So I had to learn how to hustle as a young kid, right? I had to learn how to fit in with different groups of people. Maybe they could buy me lunch. Maybe I can, ride with them on the ride home from school, and instead of taking the bus. Like I had to figure that out. I was the short kid too, so I had to learn how to use humor and how to make people laugh as like a defense mechanism. But so maybe, as a kid, I had some advantages towards that. But I'll challenge anybody who says, oh, I can't learn that sort of emotional intelligence or that kind of strategic kind of thinking. I'll call BS on that. You can. There's ways to learn this stuff. You can go through a checklist in your head. Like, Aaron, if I was the first time I was meeting you, I'd try to figure out really quickly, oh, where are you from? Immediately, I try to find connection there. Maybe I know someone from where he's from. Oh, what school did you go to? Maybe I know someone that went to your school, right? Where, what kind of background, what kind of family background do you have? Maybe you're Irish and I'm Irish or something like that, right? There's a very systematic way, a strategic way to try to make connection points. It's like, I always tell people, it's like the 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon. I don't know if you've ever heard that before. It's kind of a funny thing, but movie actors, you can always find an actor you can make 6 connection points to get to Kevin Bacon. And it's a funny way to make the point, but I can always usually try to find 4 or 5 connection points away to find something in common with someone.
No, absolutely. I mean, and sometimes like it doesn't have to be, obviously some people come up in different family backgrounds. Like you said you grew up with a single mom. I had both parents, you know what I mean? So like maybe I can't necessarily relate there, but it's not like I don't know a single mother. It's not like I don't know someone who grew up with a single mother. Or, I mean, if you really want to get kind of, I can't think of the right word, bland, I guess you could say. Like one of the things I've come across lately is, food. Use food. What kind of food do you like? You're bound to like something in common. You know what I mean? Everybody has made a bowl of mac and cheese in their life. Use it. You know what I mean? Find some common ground to have a conversation, and then just use that to snowball into what you actually want to learn, or, or just whether you just want to build that connection. Just kind of, if you can make that connection more than just kind of that conversation, I would say go more towards the connection, because that way they're going to remember you. And then, when, if you follow up or if you connect with them on any sort of social media, every time they see your name or your face, they're going to remember that conversation. And they might mention you to someone else, or, and you don't even know if they're talking about you, behind your back, which not like in a bad way, but you know what I mean? My point is that you don't know like what they could be saying about you that's good, going on right now and you don't even know it. So like there might be people that know of you and are aware of you and know what you're working on and you don't even know.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you're trying to shoot your shot and you're trying to, kind of like strategically go after someone to look for mentorship from them out of the blue, I would say do your homework too, right?
Mm-hmm.
Try to in advance find any way you possibly can connect with them on a level that sticks out, like you're saying. Like for me, if someone were to reach, because I'm into this coffee farm thing, right? Maybe we'll talk about that later. But if someone were to say to me, "Hey, young guy, looking for, I'm very interested in the coffee world. I see you're doing coffee things, and we have some sort of background in the military," I'd be like, "Heck yeah, let's set up a call. Like that sounds cool. Let's talk." Right? But they probably did their homework because I don't know them, but they knew that maybe I was doing that or I'm interested in that.
Yeah, and I'll be completely honest with you. I like as soon as I found out about that coffee farm reference, I've been using it. Like anytime I talk to someone, it's like I've been having conversations with people that it's like there's no reason you shouldn't be pursuing whatever it is you're interested in. And I'll tell people like if you want to start a coffee farm, start a coffee farm. And like that was before obviously having any sort of conversation with you, but really it's just been kind of one of those off the wall things that I hadn't heard before, but I love it. You know what I mean? Because it's one of those things that you're pursuing something that you're into. Like there's too many people that I know personally or that I'm familiar with that you know what I mean, don't pursue what they're interested in. They've just relaxed into the fact that they're going to have to suffer with whatever corporate job they come up with for the rest of their lives. And I just sit there and shake my head. You know, I,
Yeah, absolutely. A big part of that too is education. I'll tell you a funny story. You don't know what you don't know until you find it out, right? So, my father was in prison, right? So hence why the single mom, and he's reading books and stuff, and he sends me a book called from prison. He sends me a book called Rich Dad Poor Dad. He's like, I'm the poor dad. I'm sorry, I'm the poor dad, but I'll teach you a lot about life, but I can't teach you about money.
mm-hmm.
I can't teach you about financial education. All I know is that you gotta, take care of yourself, get a good job, get a good career, be an expert. He was actually one of the people early on in my life telling me that from a young age. He's like, but I can't teach you about, stocks and building wealth. Like I screwed that part up for sure. So I think, getting that book I was like, I think I was 18 when he gave me that book. I still have it. It was enough for me to go, wait a minute, there's something else than going to college and getting a career and retiring at 65. Just knowing that, my walls were just expanded a little more. And I was like, I'm going to go to the edge of that wall now. I'm going to see what's out there. And then I kept finding out there was no wall. I just kept, my mindset just kept expanding as I went down that rabbit hole of just learning what I didn't know. And again, the mentorship, right? I would go to work 20, 21 years old and talk to these older guys. They'd go, yeah, I have a rental property. Oh yeah, and some of them were in the matrix. They didn't want to get out of the matrix. They wanted that life. They didn't know any better too. And I said, you know what, I'm not going to listen to this guy anymore.
Mm-hmm.
This woman right here, she was told from all her life, but this guy all her life, that from her parents, that get a job, get a family, get a house, retire at 65 and die. I don't like that. I know that there's better out there.
Yeah, absolutely. I had a very similar kind of story. Rich Dad Poor Dad was actually where mine started too. After I had gotten connected with Adam, that was one of the first books that I was recommended to read. And like I said, shattered my perception of everything that I thought. It was absolutely insane. So yeah, definitely relating to the Rich Dad Poor Dad story as, that's very similar to kind of, my own. But I mean, do you have any other books that you read kind of along the way that either helped shape your perceptions of real estate and wealth now, or, just really anything that, was kind of monumental for you to learn at that time?
Yeah. So, I tried reading Rich Dad Poor Dad when I was that young, and I think it was like 18 or something. And I only got through halfway, right? I wasn't ready for it, but it was enough to challenge me. I went back to financial education books and mindset books later on. As early in my early 20s in the military, they kind of forced the mindset books and leadership books down your throat. And, I really like those. Some of those books are more modeling after famous or really, just amazing leaders that the Marine Corps has had. So those are some of the books that stood out to me. Then, I was mostly head down in my career and being I was reading system engineering books in IT, right? But then in my mid-20s, some of the books that stood out to me some of the people that stood out to me were, the leaders who were saying things like you can do more, like um, why am I blanking on his name right now? The guy who makes you walk on coals. What's his name? I'm totally blanking on his name. Tony Robbins.
Yeah.
Learning about Tony Robbins and some of that mindset stuff in my mid-20s was really eye-opening. And then I started really reading real estate books and real estate podcasts. And in those books and in those podcasts, a big part of that was the mindset shift, right? That you can have more. You don't have to just, buy one house the rest of your life or stick to just one source of income. Then the other books from the Rich Dad Poor Dad series were really great. The Cash Flow Quadrant book, I cannot tell you how much that was, if Rich Dad Poor Dad was like taking the blue pill or the red pill in the Matrix analogy, the Cash Flow Quadrant was like becoming like that next level. And now I'm walking around looking at people like looking at my sister, who is a very, very successful professional in the medical field, but she only has one source of income. Or looking at, some of the mentors that I've had and saying, wait a minute, you have all your eggs in one basket right now. You're only making money one way. You are exchanging time for money. So now I'm looking around at people just exchanging time for money and looking at myself critically too. So that was a big one. And again, those other real estate books, challenging that you can, in fact, invest out of state. That was a big one for me. The whole Bigger Pockets series, Bigger Pockets has been huge for me. I am what the collection of books that I read have been, right? I am a product of the thousands of hours of podcasts and the tens and hundreds of books that I've read. Talking about what I do behind the scenes to get where I'm at, I read books. Like I don't watch that much Netflix anymore. I'm kind of boring now, right? I spend my free time. I video game a little bit and I play with my kids and hang out with my wife, but I read a lot. Another big book that helped me a lot, because I do have some ADD in me, and by a little I mean a lot, is two books. There was one ADD specific book, and the other one was Getting Things Done by David Allen. That book has been a game changer for me on maximizing my time, being efficient, having a system and a process to handle incoming things that life throws at you, both in your career or in your side hustle stuff. So that's been a huge change in my efficiency, is Getting Things Done by David Allen.
Yeah, man, that's awesome. I mean, I know those are going on my list. So, I have a pretty lengthy list now, so I have to try and get through the ones that I'm, are above it, but still definitely good ones to get through. But yeah, I mean, I don't know how much more time you have, but I feel we should probably start winding it down a little bit.
I got another 10, 15 minutes.
Okay, perfect. I know you mentioned some podcasts there too. Did you have any of those that kind of stood out to you that, really helped you kind of develop that base understanding?
Yeah, I mean, shout out to Gary V. He was another big change in mindset for me, was hearing him say, it's okay to do these things. It's okay to try things. So he had a podcast too. I think that's actually how, see, the YouTube or podcast is how I got introduced to him. And, start with the Bigger Pockets on the real estate side, starting with that. I've now shifted into real estate, into thinking about multifamily real estate and commercial real estate. So there's different podcasts there that appeal to me. Hunter Thompson's podcast is maybe on a more advanced level than what I was ready for to begin with. But now that I'm here, that's one of the ones that really just kind of appeals to me and where I'm at. Rod Cleef has a really good podcast for multifamily and apartment investing. So does Michael Blanc. Brian Briscoe, I think I can say this now, he's kind of a mentor to me. Again, connections, mutual relationship because of the Marine Corps, an older guy, and it's more seasoned in his career, already doing these apartment investing. So I've reached out to him and started building a relationship with him. He has a fantastic podcast for both newer aspiring investors and for seasoned investors. There's value for everybody there. So it's a really great format that he has. Diary of an Apartment Investor. Just shout out to him, quick plug. And And other mindset ones, I think, yeah, those are some pretty good ones to start with because they all have their own pieces in their content, not just about real estate. They also have mindset, entrepreneurship, things like that.
Yeah, man, perfect. I mean, obviously, thank you for mentioning all of those. And I mean, some of the great things that you've touched on is just, like, first off, being a lifelong learner. Like, you're still learning. Like, and I mean,
Yep.
and really, like, don't let go of that. You know what I mean? That's what keeps us where we are. Like, keep learning. Like, when you quit learning, that's when I start worrying. Like, why? Like, there's always something new you can learn. And really, like, I feel like I'm just somebody who's always kind of been curious, where like there was always something new I wanted to learn. Where some people are very content with what they know. So I guess that maybe if I come across one of those people, we'll be able to dissect that on here or something. But um, but yeah, I'm trying to think where I was going with that.
I can tell you,
I,
even the more seasoned, very successful entrepreneurs, they're still learning. They're still
mhm.
reading. I did see that early on. I'm like, the more successful people I'm trying to model after, they read a lot. And maybe books suck for you, right? Maybe you're not a book reader. You can listen to something. If you got to commute, you can listen to something.
Yeah, there's always audiobooks now. I mean,
Yep.
I think you can even get those through Amazon and wherever. I do
There's
know a lot of
literally no
people
excuse
utilize
for not.
those.
Yeah, there's literally no excuse now for not learning. Like I will challenge anybody that says, "Oh, I'm not a book person." Well, freaking watch YouTube videos.
Mhm.
Watch, read blogs, read, and you can do all this stuff on your phone now. Oh, I don't even sit behind a computer. Do it on your phone. And there's literally no excuse for not learning. You are choosing to not learn and instead doing something else. Every time you do it, you make that choice. And I remember it hitting me in my mid 20s. I was married with this person. And when we hit that mid 20 mark, I remember we kind of like veered different places. I stopped wanting to waste my time just watching Real Housewives of whatever. And she didn't want to, she wanted to keep doing that sort of stuff. And not to make it like a relationship thing, but I remember that hitting me. I'm like, I don't want to waste any more of my brain cycles on learning about why this lady got into a fight with this other lady at a restaurant. Like, I don't care about, I'd rather read. And I remember sitting there while, this person was watching TV, and I'm not judging anyone off this, but if you want to be successful and you want to, grow and be an entrepreneur or whatever, and then you say, I don't have time to learn or read, I'm going to call BS on that because I'm going to say, how much TV are you watching? Right. I would
Mhm.
choose to put headphones on and listen to an audiobook or, read something on my phone or my Kindle.
Yeah, no, I'm actually really glad you mentioned that because that's kind of some of the situations that I'm going through right now with my girlfriend. She watches TV. I mean, and like she's pre-med, like she wants to be a doctor and stuff. So like obviously her coursework and stuff is pretty vigorous, but she still, finds time for TV and stuff where I, either read or do stuff on my computer or, whatever. So like I 100% related to that point. So, definitely glad that you brought that up. But yeah, so I mean, just tons of great stuff today. I just really want to thank you for coming on and just being willing to share your story and terrific insights. I personally can tell you I got a lot from this conversation, so I think that anybody listening is going to get a lot out of it too. So yeah, just I mean, obviously, thank you for coming on and sharing. Do you have any kind of final thoughts before we close it out?
No goal is too big to achieve. I think like we're put on this earth, religiously, however you want to think about it, for a reason. And I always remember in my young age, I didn't know what that reason was, but I had people tell me, although you didn't come from nothing, you're special. You just got to figure out why. And I remember my mom telling me that, family, people I'd run into. So, now I'm trying to do crazy stuff. I'm trying to build a coffee farm. I'm trying to do big lofty goals, but I know I'm capable. I have all my hands and feet, like my brain. I was born with, pretty normal brain, and I should be able to accomplish these things. And I keep trying to figure out what I'm going to do, what makes me special. And I think now in my mid 30s, I've tried enough things and explored enough things. I think I know why. I'm gonna make some change somewhere. I'm gonna make some people's lives better. I'm gonna make some generational wealth for my family. So no, none of my kids ever have to be poor or struggle again. So just keep figuring out what makes you special and big lofty goals. Don't think that anything's you can't accomplish something because it's possible. It may be hard, it may take a while, but everything's possible.
Absolutely. I mean, that's super, super powerful. I mean, I just kind of want to reiterate that no goal is too big and you are special. Go find out why. I love that. I'm going to start using it. I love it, but just like, I mean, I'm sorry. I cannot stress enough. Whatever you're interested in right now, pursue it. Go for it. You will never regret. Maybe you'll learn something about it and learn that maybe it's not for you, but you will never regret that pursuit of knowledge about whatever it is that you're interested in right now. Just
Exactly.
go for it. Like, who cares? Just like we said, no goal is too big. Like, if you want to change the freaking world, go for it. Like, contact me. I'll help you do it. Like, let's go. Like, strap up. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, you could say, how, whatever, you want to use there, but just like, I can't, reiterate that enough. Just whatever it is you're interested in right now, shoot for the stars, man. Go for it. But yeah, I mean,
you may have to sacrifice. You may have to sacrifice some Netflix, but you may have to sacrifice some free time with your friends if your goals are that big. But you got to start somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, just kind of bouncing off of that real quick. One of the things that I've definitely heard you mention on this is, and this is a whole nother rabbit hole, so I don't want to go too deep. It's just that, like, surrounding yourself with like-minded people is huge. Because I mean, it's extremely hard for you to shoot for the moon if your roommate is, shooting underground. You know what I mean? Like, I couldn't really think of another, term to use there. But like, you got to surround yourself with the right minds and the right people that are going to help you push those ideas, or whatever they may be, whatever it is. Find somebody who agrees with you. Find somebody who's going to support that idea. Keep them around. Like, I don't care if they're from Arizona. I don't care if they're from Florida. I don't care if you're from, Russia. I don't care. Like, find those people, circle up with them, stay close, and get it done, man. Get after it. Like, I really can't reiterate that enough. So, I mean, Mauricio, I just want to say thank you again for coming on. I had a great time with this one today. This one was truly, truly valuable. So thank you again for coming on and sharing. I know I already asked this, but do you have anything else right before we close it out?
Yeah, again, about your circle and just talking with like-minded people. If anybody of like mind wants to talk with me, you could definitely reach out. You can email me at my first name, Mauricio @moborealty.com. Or you can find me on Instagram, investmomoney, and just reach out to me there.
Love it. Yeah, thanks again for coming on, man. So always remember, everyone, this is ground zero. There's nowhere to go from here but up.